It's now time to make our contact page responsive. So this is my contact page. I'll first go ahead and create my breakpoint. To create my breakpoint, I'll simply go to page, and under where I have responsive web design, I'll click on manage breakpoint, and I go ahead and create my breakpoint. So in this case, I'm going to create for 320 pixels. I'll go ahead and create for 480 pixels. Click on OK and create my last one. That's the 768 pixels. Click on OK, click on OK. Let's now go ahead and switch to our 768 pixels. So I'll go ahead and click my 768 pixels breakpoint. And first thing I'll do is to resize the layer I have here. So I'll go ahead to resize this to 768 pixels, either manually or go into the property inspector to do that. Let me reposition this contact as test. Right click on it, go to center in page and select horizontal. Let's go ahead to resize this Google map. So I'll go ahead to resize this to 768 pixels. But if you realize, or if you could remember, when we were placing our code in this Google map, we changed the width of it to 955 pixels. We are going to have a problem at this particular breakpoint. What we may have to do is to make a copy of this Google map and change the width to 100 pixels. So I'll go ahead to copy it using Ctrl+C. I'll go to Object Manager and I'll make sure I hide this Google map. That is my contact HTML1. I'll go ahead and hide it. And I'll paste what I copied using Ctrl+Shift+V. I'll paste it in place. Now let's double click on it and change the width so that it fits on all the other mobile breakpoints. Let me enlarge this a little bit so that I can easily find the code. So where we have our width, let's change this to 100 pixels. Sorry, let's change this to 100%. Now let's leave the height to 300 pixels and let's go ahead and click on OK. So in this case, we can go ahead and use this particular Google map on our mobile breakpoint. And when we get to our desktop, we are going to use the original one. So now let's go ahead and resize our contact form. I'll first start by resizing my edit box to about 200 pixels. I'll go ahead and resize this one to 200 pixels. I'll go ahead and resize this one to 200 pixels. Now move my message box a little bit to the left hand side. Move it some few pixels away from the edit boxes. I'll make sure it's in a line both to the top and the bottom. Then I'll go ahead to resize this as well. So I'll resize this to about 250 pixels. I'll go to my property inspector and change this to 250 by 117 pixels. I'll hit on enter. Now let me go ahead and move my buttons to the left hand side. Holding on the shift key, I'll click on this one too. I'll move it to the left hand side. I'll make sure it hits the edge of this message box. Move it some few pixels away to the bottom. Now I'll go ahead and resize my contact area. Let me go ahead and reposition this object to the left hand side. I'll highlight all and move it to the left hand side of my window. Let me go ahead and move this a little bit to the right hand side and move it about some few pixels away from our Google map. I'll go ahead to reposition this, move it a little bit to the left hand side of our window. We are now done with our 768 pixels. Let's go ahead to our 480 pixels and resize our objects there. So I'll go ahead to switch to my 480 pixels. And if you could remember, we created a duplicate version of our Google map. This is what we are going to be working with, the one with contact HTML2. So we are going to resize this and get rid of it. I'll go to my object manager and make sure I uncheck visible so that it goes away. I'll move this to its position. Make sure it's positioned in the center and make sure it has equal spacing between here. Click on this layer, holding on the shift key, click on this layer as well, and now click on our content form area. Go to arrange and under distribute, select vertically to have equal spacing. Let's go ahead and resize our top layer. I'll first reposition this test, right click on it, go to center in page and select horizontal. Let me resize this to 480 pixels. I'll go ahead and resize this to 480 pixels too. And now I'm going to go ahead to resize my contact form here. I'll expand our contact area a little bit and move our edit or our message box to the button here. I'll go ahead and resize it to have the same width as our edit boxes here. So I'll go ahead to resize it to 313 pixels. Let me be sure by checking this if it is 313 pixels. So if you look below here, we have 313 pixels as the width. Now I'll create equal spacing between them. Click on our message box, holding on the shift key, click on our edit box, click on this and click on this. Now go to arrange and distribute, select vertically. Let's go ahead and move our buttons to the bottom of our message box. I'll make sure it stays in the center. I'll go ahead and resize my contact form area. After resizing it, I'll right click on it, go to center in page and select horizontal to be in the center of our page. I'll go ahead and resize this a little bit more. Now let's go ahead and select our object here, move it to the bottom of our page. I'll keep this text here. I'll click on this, holding on the shift key, click on this, go ahead, click on this and click on this, and I'll move it to the right hand side of the window. I'll make sure it hits the top edge of our text we have here. So we are done with our 480 pixels. Let's go ahead to our 320 pixels and resize the object there. So I'll switch to my 320 pixels. And if you can remember, we made a duplicate version of our Google Map. So I'll go ahead and get rid of this one. I'll first resize it to 320 pixels. Then go to our object manager and get rid of it. I'll resize my contact text here. I'll right click on it, go to center in page and select horizontal. I'll go ahead to resize this layer. Make sure it is 320 pixels. That's the width. And move this a little bit to the top. Move it some few pixels away from the top layer and resize this to 320 pixels. Now let's go ahead and expand our contact form area. I'll then go ahead and move our message box below here and resize it to 313 pixels as the width. I'll go ahead and create equal spacing. Click on this, holding on the shift key, click on this and click on this. Go to arrange and select vertically and distribute. Let's go ahead and move our buttons to the bottom here, making sure it stays in the center. I'll go ahead and resize my contact form area. I'll move this to hit the edge, and to the left hand side I'll make sure it hits the edge as well. Let's go ahead and resize it from the bottom too. Now I'll right click on it and select center in page so that it stays right in the center of our contact page. That's our 320 pixels. I'll go ahead and highlight this object and move it to the bottom. I'll make sure this case it stays in the center. So I'll keep it right here using the help of the guide, making sure it stays in the center of the page. So I'm done with my 320 pixels. Let me switch to 480. Everything is fine. Let's go to our 768. Everything is fine. Now let's go to our default. If you can remember, we created a duplicate version of our Google Map, so we will have to get rid of the duplicated one. So I'll click on it, go to Object Manager and make sure I hide it here. So now our contact page is just fine. We are done making our contact page responsive.